In today's video, I'm going to expose the truth behind misinformation and climate change discourse, what it is, how it spreads, and why it even exists in the first place. There are three forms of false information: misinformation, disinformation, and malinformation. Climate misinformation refers to the spread of false information, but without the intention to mislead. In other words, it can arise through human error, not knowing that the information you're sharing is false. Climate disinformation, on the other hand, includes the intention to mislead in order to advance one's ulterior motive, such as maintaining the fossil fuel industry. Lastly, climate malinformation. It's not a common term, but I believe it's the most dangerous. Malinformation uses real facts and data, but intentionally twists it in order to fit an agenda. For example, saying that the concentration of CO2 in the atmosphere is only 0.04%, so there's no need for such urgency.
The answer is 0.04%. Not 1%, not a half of a percent. It's 0.04%, and it's gone up from 0.03 over the last couple decades. This is what we're being all contorted into doing, is this tiny change in CO2.
But not only is this dishonest, because if you look at the parts per million data, CO2 has been a record high since 3 million years ago. You can also twist it by saying that 0.04% is such a minuscule number, and any change with that is minuscule as well, but the effects are so significant that it justifies even more climate action. For the sake of this video, I'll be joining the terms up into just misinformation, but just note that there are three different types. Now, let's look at the different narratives created by climate misinformation.
If you don't get away from this green scam, your country is going to fail.
Climate denial comes in two forms. Those who straight up reject the science behind climate change, saying it does not exist or saying that it's natural, and also those who agree that we are contributing to climate change, but the effects are not that severe, effectively downplaying it. These two methods were more effective in the past, but as we feel the impacts of our carbon emissions more and more, it has become much harder to deny the existence of climate change, so these bad actors have adopted a new approach. In what experts call the new denial, many former climate change deniers have stopped outright rejecting the science and accepted that climate change is real. Sounds like a step forward, right? No. The new denial attempts to evoke an emotional response out of the audience, you, which is much more persuasive than the old and boring, difficult to understand scientific debates in the old denial. Taking a look at the different misinformation in this new climate delayism, you see four classifications. First, let's talk about redirecting responsibility. This one is all about shifting blame to individuals or other countries. You've probably seen campaigns like BP's Know Your Carbon Footprint, making you feel guilty about your actions when they are a significantly greater polluter. And you have probably heard about people blaming the developing world, notably India and China, for their emissions. The latter is a complex debate, but essentially both downplay the extent of climate engagement and action necessary. Next, pushing non-transformative solutions. People who spread this misinformation often argue for the use of unproductive technologies like carbon capture and clean fossil fuels, as well as being overly optimistic that future innovations like nuclear fusion will be our savior when the solution is right in front of us. Stop using fossil fuels. Number 3, emphasizing the downsides of climate action. This is often politicized, with people framing the transition to renewables as one that would take away jobs or is expensive, while conveniently leaving out all the downsides of climate inaction. The last one is an interesting one. Instead of disagreeing about climate change, these people take the most extreme predictions of climate change and simply argue that we should give up because we have reached a point of no return. To these people, there is still time. Not a lot of time, but it's still there, and it's up to us to take action now before it's actually too late. Oh, and one last thing about the new denial: attacking scientists and activists. Not only is there actual harassment and murders of these hardworking people in the climate movement, but they're also framed as being irrational compared to the very rational Jordan Peterson wearing a suit. And they're also accused of advocating for communism. These are obviously not true, hence misinformation, but with a variety of appeals, they can attract almost everyone. So Let's look at how they work. You have the classic lies being spewed out by the President of the United States, but they can be easily fact-checked. What's difficult to rebut is malinformation, where people cherry-pick information or misrepresent it. So while what's on the surface is true, the more you research about it, the more you find out what's wrong. Take a look at this graph. It shows that climate-related deaths have decreased by 97% from 1920 to 2023. Case closed, right? Climate change is not real, or at least we can easily adapt to it. How can anyone rebut this graph? Well, Bjorn Lomborg, the person who popularized this graph, took it from this report by the Center for Research on the Epidemiology of Disasters, CRED, CRED. First of all, Lomborg completely missed out a 0 on the y-axis on his graph, which is quite funny. But anyways, the people who wrote this report explicitly asked for their graph to not be misrepresented because of the influence of mega disasters and improvements in risk management, making it look like a downward trend. If you remove the top 50 disasters, such as the famines in the Soviet Union and China, you get this graph showing an upwards trend. But unlike Lomborg with a PhD, I, a high school student, will listen to the people who wrote this report and not use it to jump to conclusions. What these three users of facts and statistics allow for is the exploitation of social media algorithms. Just slap a graph on a meme and it'll spread like wildfire. Think about the last time you took time to actually fact check information you saw on Instagram or Twitter. People fall for these things because the stats look neat and the memes are relatable, so easy to share. But why do people spread misinformation? What is the intention behind them? Money is the obvious answer for many of the sources of misinformation. The fossil fuel industry gives out money to politicians and organizations like PragerU, which then spits out information to delay climate action, keeping the fossil fuel industry alive. For others, like the Epoch Times, climate misinformation gathers a lot of traction, especially from those within the echo chamber, which generates them a lot of ad revenue. But how about ordinary people in the comment section arguing against climate action? These people aren't getting paid by the fossil fuel industry, so what's their intention? Well, I would say that they fall into the misinformation category without the intention to mislead. I would say that these people are the product of disinformation and malinformation, pawns that the fossil fuel industry intended to create to stir up climate discourse. They are victims of the system they are trying to advocate for, and it shows that we are fighting a losing battle. But the battle isn't lost yet. Whether you care about the climate or not, there's something you can do. Think more critically about the information you see online, join the conversation and spread the truth, and finally, share videos like this to others so they're more educated about the topic.